Have you ever listened to an empty house? Not just lived in one, but really listened to the walls, to the air, to the spaces between the silence? There is a house on the outskirts of a forgotten town where the wind never quite stops and the rain never fully dries. It's old, older than anyone can remember, and it has a way of breathing. This is the story of a man named Daniel Reeves. He moved into the house alone. He wanted the quiet, needed it. After losing someone he loved, he thought the silence would help, but silence is never truly empty. His first night in the house was uneventful, almost peaceful. The sound of rain tapping against the windows, the steady creaks of wood shifting under its own age. He fell asleep easily, until he woke up. At exactly 3:33 a.m., there was a sound, not outside, not in the rain, but inside the house. A breath, a slow, deliberate inhale, and then an exhale, as if the house itself had lungs. Daniel sat up in bed, his pulse loud in his ears. He held his breath, waiting, but the sound was gone, just the rain. The next night, he woke again, 3:33 a.m. This time it was closer. The breath, it was just behind his bedroom door. Something was listening to him. Daniel didn't sleep after that. He tried to tell himself it was the house settling. Old wood, shifting under the weight of time. But houses don't breathe. They don't watch. They don't whisper. By the third night, the whispers had begun. Soft, fragmented voices floating through the walls. Not loud, not aggressive. Just there. Always at 3:33 a.m. Daniel was a rational man. He didn't believe in ghosts, in hauntings. But belief doesn't matter when something knows your name. He heard it that night. Just as he was slipping into uneasy sleep, a woman's voice, not angry, not pleading, just speaking his name over and over, like she was reminding him of something he'd forgotten. And then the breathing returned, long, slow, waiting. That night he locked his bedroom door. It didn't help. At exactly 3:33 a.m., something knocked. 3 times. At first he thought it was his imagination, but then the handle turned, not violently, not forced, just tested. A soft click-click, as if whatever was outside was wondering if it was locked at all. Daniel didn't move, didn't breathe. The knocking stopped, but the whispers did not. The next morning he found something outside his door, a footprint, not muddy, not dirty, but wet, like something had been standing there, listening, waiting. The rain never stopped that week. The days passed in a haze, but every night at exactly 3:33 a.m., the house breathed, the whispers grew, the knocking continued, and the wet footprints never went away. But then, on the 7th night, something changed. Daniel didn't wake at 3:33 a.m. He woke at 3:32, just before it happened. And in the silence, before the knocking, before the breathing, he heard something else. Footsteps from inside his room. His breath caught in his throat. He was frozen, eyes staring at the ceiling, knowing that if he turned his head, something would be there, standing over his bed, waiting for 3:33 a.m. He lay still, every muscle locked, listening as the air shifted beside him. Then, a hand, software ice cold, fingertips pressing gently against his shoulder, and then a voice whispering so close to his ear he could feel it. "You left the door unlocked." He ran, out of the bed, out of the room, out into the rain. He never went back inside. The house still stands, empty, waiting, still breathing. And if you pass by on a rainy night, if you stop and listen, you might hear it too. A breath, long, slow, waiting for someone to come home. Story number 2. Have you ever felt watched? Not just a passing feeling, but something deeper, something ancient, something that doesn't blink. This is the story of Caleb Hawthorne. He was never afraid of the dark, never afraid of ghosts, until he moved into the house by the lake. It was supposed to be temporary, a place to clear his mind, to escape the noise of the city, to be alone. But Caleb was never alone. It started on the first night, a tapping, software, rhythmic, not on the window, not on the door, but from inside the walls. He told himself it was just the house settling, old wood shifting, the sound of rain playing tricks on him, but it was too precise, too deliberate. The second night, he woke at 3:15 a.m. He didn't know why, but the moment his eyes opened, he felt it, something outside, watching. He turned his head slowly. The window was fogged from the cold, but beyond the glass, a shadow, tall, motionless, standing just at the tree line, facing his house, not moving, not breathing, just watching. Caleb told himself it was his imagination, a trick of the rain. But when morning came, he found them, footprints, leading from the woods, stopping exactly beneath his bedroom window, just standing there, waiting. He didn't go outside that day. The rain continued. That night he locked all the doors, closed every curtain, kept the lights on. But at 3:15 a.m., the power went out, a flicker, then darkness, and then the tapping returned. But this time it wasn't in the walls. It was at his bedroom door. 3 taps, then silence, then 3 more. He held his breath, every nerve in his body frozen. Then the doorknob turned, a slow, patient click, not forced, not rushed, just testing. Caleb didn't move, didn't breathe, and then a whisper, software, right outside the door. Caleb, he ran, out of bed, into the hallway, straight to the front door, locked, deadbolt jammed. Behind him, footsteps, slow, wet, following. Caleb! His heart pounded, his breath ragged. He grabbed the key, his fingers slick with sweat, and twisted. The door burst open. Cold rain hit his skin. And then, silence. The whispers stopped. The footsteps vanished. Caleb turned back. The house was dark, still, empty, or so he thought. Because when lightning flashed, for just a second, he saw it, in the reflection of the glass, standing behind him, close enough to touch, a face he almost recognized, a face that was his own, but wrong. Caleb never returned to the house after that, but sometimes when it rains, he still feels watched, and late at night, if he listens closely, he hears the tapping, waiting, calling him back.